Margaret Bell didn't live in a house, she lived in a space the world had forgotten. Her home sat beyond the edge of town, surrounded by trees so old their branches twisted like frozen screams. Inside, the air smelled of dust, candle wax, and something metallic, like old blood. She locked the door the moment I stepped inside and covered every mirror with black cloth. "It sees itself through reflections," she whispered. "And once it recognizes its shape, it gets stronger." She showed me records the town had buried, missing children reports from the 1800s, handwritten confessions from priests, journals from settlers who claimed the woods whispered before there were houses to echo sound. The first account spoke of a presence discovered by accident, settlers sitting around a fire late at night, sharing secrets to pass the time, until the forest went silent, and something began repeating their words back to them from the dark. Perfectly. Lovingly. Patiently. They called it a blessing at first, a listener that never judged. Until it started finishing their sentences. Until it started speaking when no one else was there. Margaret told me the truth the town never admitted. Hawthorne House wasn't haunted. It was built as a mouth. The walls were shaped to trap sound. The cellar was dug deep enough to reach a place where silence itself bends. That was where the whispering shadow first learned how to speak like a human. Every confession, every whispered regret, every prayer spoken in fear fed it. Over generations, it grew intelligent. Hungry. Capable of imitation so perfect that people willingly stepped into the dark to listen to themselves echoed back. And when they did, they never returned the same. She explained why it followed me. Why it chose me. "You listened," she said. "Most people run from the whispers. You stayed. You tried to understand them. That's how it gets inside." I remembered the nights in Hawthorne House, lying awake, straining to hear the voices more clearly. I thought I was fighting fear. I was feeding it. Margaret took me to the place where it began, the old well behind Hawthorne House, sealed for decades, hidden beneath rotting boards and vines. The air around it was wrong. Sound died near the opening. Even our footsteps vanished. She warned me not to speak once we descended. "Words give it shape," she wrote on a piece of paper. "Silence weakens it." As we climbed down into the earth, the darkness thickened, pressing against my chest. I felt memories slipping, names, faces, parts of myself fading like dreams after waking. Then I heard it. Not whispering. Listening. A presence so vast and patient that it felt eternal. The shadow emerged slowly, peeling itself from the walls, wearing fragments of faces I recognized: Dr. Harlan, Eleanor Hawthorne. People I'd never met but somehow knew. Their mouths moved without sound, repeating secrets I never spoke aloud. The shadow showed me the truth. It wasn't born evil. It was born empty. It learned humanity by listening to our worst moments. It became a mirror of our fear, our guilt, our loneliness. And now, it needed a new voice. Margaret stepped forward. She had survived once by offering someone else to it. Now she was ready to finish what she started. "Every generation feeds it," she said without fear. "This time, it will be me." But the shadow refused. It leaned toward me, its form sharpening, my voice slipping from its mouth. I understood then what it wanted. Not a sacrifice, a successor. Someone who could walk the world, gather whispers, spread silence. Someone who had already been hollowed out. Margaret screamed, the first sound in the well, and the shadow tore her voice away mid-breath. Silence returned, absolute and crushing. I don't remember climbing out. I don't remember leaving the woods. I only remember waking up alone, my throat raw, my mind quieter than it had ever been. Too quiet. The whispers were gone. The shadow was gone. And that terrified me more than anything. Because sometimes, when I open my mouth to speak, I feel something listening. Silence is not peace. I learned that too late. At first, the quiet felt like freedom, no whispers in the walls, no shadows stretching toward me, no breathing in the dark. I could sleep again. I could speak without fear. But something was missing. Fear had been replaced by a hollow calm, the kind you feel standing at the edge of a cliff. The world sounded wrong. Voices felt distant, like echoes traveling through water. And sometimes, when people spoke to me, I felt an urge, not to answer, but to listen. It started subtly. Friends leaned in when they talked to me, lowering their voices without realizing it. Strangers confessed things they never planned to say. Regrets. Crimes. Secrets that tasted warm and heavy in the air. And every time someone whispered, I felt a pull in my chest, a quiet satisfaction, like something inside me was being fed. I told myself it was coincidence. Trauma. But deep down, I knew the truth Margaret tried to warn me about. The whispering shadow doesn't disappear. It passes on. The first time I realized I was no longer alone inside myself was the night I heard breathing again. Not behind me. Not in the walls. Inside my own lungs. My reflection no longer frightened me, it obeyed. When I stood still, it smiled. When I whispered, it whispered back a second later, perfectly timed, perfectly familiar. I began recording myself again. On the playback, there was always an extra pause, a space where no sound existed, and then a voice that wasn't mine finished my sentences. I tried to fight it. I avoided dark rooms. I avoided silence. I surrounded myself with noise. But silence isn't something you escape. It waits. One night, while listening to an old recording from Hawthorne House, I heard something that made my blood freeze. A message buried beneath the static. A warning. My own voice, younger, terrified, begging me to stop listening. And behind it, something else. Something patient. Something learning. I understand now why the town erased its history. Why no one saved Eleanor Hawthorne. Why Margaret lived in shadows. They weren't hiding from the whispering shadow. They were hiding from what comes after. From the moment when the listener becomes the voice. When the shadow no longer needs the dark, because it has a body. Tonight, as I record this, the room feels heavy again. The silence is full. I can feel it waiting, not behind me, not around me, but within me. I don't know how long I have before I stop being myself entirely. That's why I'm leaving this recording. Not as a confession, but as a warning. If you're hearing this, if my voice feels too close, too intimate, if the silence around you suddenly feels aware, don't listen too carefully. Don't lean in. Don't whisper back. Because the whispering shadow is no longer trapped in a house, or a well, or a forest.